Good evening. I'm Carol Olson Day of the New York Times. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this exciting TimesTalks. Tonight, we are enormously pleased to have as our guests two of the most exciting talents working in film today. One is an Academy Award, Golden Globe, and Tony Award nominated star of film and stage. The other is a writer, director, producer of box office hits whose work has earned him nominations for the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance and for an Independent Spirit Award for Best Director. These two accomplished filmmakers first collaborated on the 2010 film The A-Team, and their current film together, the heroic action thriller The Grey, opens January 27th. You'll meet them and hear much more about their collaboration from our interviewer. Every Monday, his Media Equation column is a must-read for everyone concerned with how media intersects with business, culture, and society. In the past few weeks, he's also focused on media coverage of the early presidential campaign. He also writes about film, television, and books for the arts section. And he's the author of the compelling memoir, The Night of the Gun. Last year, he appeared as a character, his own, in the film Page One, Inside the New York Times. Please join me in welcoming David Carr and our very special guests, Liam Neeson and Joe Carnahan.
Have a seat, my son.
Mm-hmm.
Liam Neeson, what about that? Joe talked me into going with the scarf.
We had some solidarity on the scarf.
Yours isn't red, though.
No, you're rocking it, Dave. I'm not.
Feels kind of foofy.
It's okay.
Okay, so you're fresh off The Daily Show.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions, just so you know. Would you rather be devoured by wolves or Jon Stewart?
Wolves, I think.
Wolves. How'd it go for you on The Daily Show?
It's fine. I was so determined to ask him, have you seen the movie?
Right.
Because all the other journalists we've done have interviewed us over the junkets, have all seen it.
Right.
But he was so cleverly being funny and
Right.
intelligent the way he is. I felt if I'd popped that question in, everything would just gone like that. So I didn't.
No.
And the answer was no.
Probably wise.
Probably not, no.
He didn't answer the question.
I never asked him.
Okay.
Because he was on a roll, you know.
When you started in on this project and you guys were you touring together? I suppose I should refer here.
No, we were.
No, we were. Dave. We were actually. Yeah, we were in. Where were we? We were on a junket for the A-Team.
We were in Berlin.
Okay, so you're riding along.
London. We were in London, and Liam and I were into our cups, as they say. And,
Yes.
And
Does that mean it involved beverage alcohol,
It did.
adult drinks?
yes, several adult beverages.
Is that vodka actually right there?
This is actually red wine.
This is coffee.
You guys are drinking.
Don't be confused. You've got real Irishmen on the stage right now, including David Carr.
I am too. I just tend to end up in handcuffs when I drink. So I don't. But you know, a boy can dream.
That's what we aspire to.
So you guys are touring the A-Team, and you brought it up, or it's based on a short story.
Yeah, I was talking to Jules Daly, who's in this audience tonight, and I don't know
Producer.
what we're talking about. Yes, producer, lovely, amazing, hardworking, maybe the only hardworking producer in Hollywood. And I think Liam was eavesdropping.
Yeah, no, I heard these guys talking about the story of The Grey, and because we had such a good time on the A-Team, it was like, and I heard things like snow, wolves, man, no actresses, man. I thought, I wonder what they're talking about. So I did eavesdrop and asked a few pertinent questions.
But once he sort of got down to the concept, which was going up to some hellhole.
Yeah, the
You
ass
like
end of the ass
go,
end.
you go to, where do you go?
We went
Alberta, and then take
yeah.
a right and drive 15 hours
Right,
north, or
right. It's where people don't want to, normally live is where we went. No, it was Smithers, British Columbia, which is kind of I
So
guess,
north of Vancouver,
subarctic. Yeah,
yes.
Population 5,000.
yeah.
But didn't you, when he ran the concept and -40 and gale force winds and da-da-da, didn't you say, Joe, I love the concept, love it, but what about cougars, tropical island,
And Burbank.
saved by native women?
Tahitians.
Yeah.
Right. Just
You made
same
that
thing.
Movie, though. You made that movie.
I did make that movie. I know. I didn't want to do it again. No, it's just this was this sounded primal, cleansing, where I was at emotionally in my head, all the rest of it. I thought this is exactly what I want to do. If there is something in it for me, and I asked Joe, and I said I totally commit to this.
And indeed, there was something in it for him. Yeah. I don't think we knew how bad it was going to be then. Until we got there, we had a sense of how funky it could get on that mountain. But until you experience that, you don't. Until you're standing in -37-degree weather.
And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah,
That's
and
what it was.
and the physical effects supervisor, this lovely guy named James Parody, who's so great. He bailed us out of a lot of tough spots. He said to me, because I was wearing a balaclava for the first couple of days to cover my face, he said, just let your beard freeze. It'll be a lot warmer if you let your beard freeze.
Really?
Yeah, and I said, well, that goes against every good instinct.
I'm just thinking icicle's not really a good look on you.
No, it's not. But no, it was almost like some kind of S&M things. It looked like somebody just dumped candle wax all over my face.
Right.
And I looked like like the ancient mariner version of my father. And I immediately sent my dad a picture, going, "This is what you're going to look like at 80, by the way." But it worked. It was actually warmer.
I did want to get back to this issue of casting. You just decided to give the kid a break, or
Yeah, I thought,
Cut him
as a
out.
young upcoming Irish actor, I thought, why not? Let's.
no name, nobody.
No, one thing about Liam is like when he got on, it really Liam's like this wonderful, like the pace car. It's like once he's at speed, all the other actors kind of realize, oh, this is the movie we're making. So there were no temper tantrums or no outbursts, no egomaniacal kind of bullshit that
we don't.
And by the way, if we had been touched with even a little bit of that, it would have spelled doom. We had 40 days to shoot the film, so.
Well, couldn't you have actually just said whoever it was outside the warming hut and they would have died?
Yes, and that occurred to me on more than one occasion.
Right.
There were a couple actors I thought, just wander. I want you to go find your character.
I heard there's a nice latte shop over the hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go right over there. There's a macchiato. I promise you, it's right there. Yeah, yeah.
In terms of sort of the fundamentals of the film, Liam, what story did you feel like you were telling? Man against nature, man against other men, man against wolves. What was your way in on this?
Well, preparation-wise, it was rereading Moby Dick, a few Jack London books, a little bit of Ernest Hemingway, and Joe here is like a throwback to John Huston and
Wow.
John Ford and these guys. So it was like
That's on tape now, Joe. For
I know that's it. That's it. That's gonna be my press clipping for the next.
yeah, but
Neeson called me John Huston.
I mean, Moby Dick.
Who might argue?
In this instance, you were kind of the white whale, and some big ugly wolf was Captain Ahab. I mean, you were the hunted.
Only a
Yeah,
writer
but-
could come up
but I
with that
was-
that quickly. That was actually quite good. Yeah,
that was very
I
good.
never considered that.
Straight off the dome here, people.
No, that's a good read on it, Dave. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but these people don't care what I think. They care what you think in terms of.
Well, I thought because I'm a sharpshooter
Right.
in this film, there was maybe the Celtic Irish thing in me, superstition thought, because my character's obviously taken down quite a few of these wolves who were attacking these oil refinery workers, and I thought maybe this is revenge. They're coming after me. That was my kind of thought.
It occurs to me as we're talking. I've seen the movie twice. You've probably seen it a couple more times than that.
Nope, I haven't.
You haven't. is with you actors? Like, it's so weird. Make a whole movie and it's, no, I haven't seen it.
No, I don't mean it like that at all.
Yeah.
No. I haven't seen I've seen it twice, yeah.
Okay.
But not with an audience.
I've seen it, Dave, more than
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
But then these guys, as I'm sitting here, I'm realizing they haven't seen the movie. We're talking about
Has
this
anybody
movie.
seen the film?
Why don't you guys talk a little bit about what the movie's about? Just, I should have laid that track down.
Well, listen. Liam plays, as he mentioned, a sharpshooter, and they're basically these guys work on the pipeline in Alaska and spend months out there, and after prolonged periods in the wild, fly back home.
Sorry, Joe, they do like 5 weeks, 24/7.
Yeah.
And then they get 2 weeks off.
Yeah. So, in doing so and flying back home, their plane encounters a
Malfunction.
mild malfunction, and they find themselves in this really inhospitable place in Alaska, and basically stranded, and no real recourse to get home, and they have to basically venture across the tundra to save
Hopefully-
themselves.
hopefully
And it's
have
it's almost a plotless film. It's a very in the kind of the vein of Touching the Void or Deliverance, or it's a great film. I don't know how many people have seen a film called The Naked Prey with Cornell Wilde from the 60s, which I love. Okay, one woman. Thank you, sweetheart. You win at the next cocktail party. So it's in the spirit of those types of films, and that's basically it. And then they begin. They're pursued by a pack of wolves. But just to be clear, because I'm sure there's a couple of animal activists out there right now. I know you're out there. The wolves are, in my mind, posited as defenders as opposed to aggressors. This is not something where I'm trying to do it like an Attenborough nature film. They have a mysticism and a mythical quality that I think, all you lovely people are going to, I know, pay to see the film when it comes out January 27th, which is 2 weeks. You'll understand. So that's basically the kind of a thumbnail.
But just so I'm clear, other than occasionally snacking on human beings, they're noble creatures.
Yes, I think listen, if you watch the movie, the Wolves do okay. If it was a football game, it's like 41-3. I'm just gonna, it's this idea. It's crazy because we've kind of experienced these, and listen, it's not from the PETA or like the really legitimate. And listen, I'm all for animal activism. I really am. I mean, I love animals. I have a dog. My wife has 3 horses.
Some of your best friends are animals.
Some of my best friends are animals. But we, early on we got this, we got these letters sent to the producers, and it was basically like, you people are headed for a PR meltdown, unless you invite me to the premiere. And then it's a little bit of the loonies kind of coming out of the woodwork to attack the film without seeing it, and therefore they have no context of what the movie is. But no, it's not. I'm not in any way, nor Liam, advocating.
But they are quite mythical
Yes.
creatures in our film.
Yeah. So we're not advocating. Yeah, let's go out and hunt wolves. That's not what the film's about.
Joe can't say it, and Liam is probably too well-mannered to say it as well, but this is a movie where you're going to jack in and totally take the ride, and you aren't quite, he says it's practically a plotless film. You don't know really where you are or where you're going, and you know that it's going to be a rough, rugged ride, but it is not one of these ABC 1, 2, 3 Hollywood plot point. You're in a very different place, in a very different world, and I think that both the sort of professional accomplishment and the physical accomplishment, because the extremis in which this film is made is visible, I think, in every frame.
Yeah, it was excruciatingly. It was beyond anything I think I'll ever experience again.
Before we get to the wolves, let's talk about that, because I'm from Minnesota, and I think fishing for walleyes when it's that cold is really, really hard. It never occurred to me, hey, it'd be a great idea to make a movie out here.
Right. Listen, I think we ascribed this notion early on of like, if we don't go out and earn this particular film, and we don't put ourselves in peril, like these characters, then the audience will see right through it. I think if we had elected to do this movie in Glendale, California, on a soundstage with styrofoam snow, the audience would poke holes in it immediately. And
Well, I wouldn't have been there for a start.
no, exactly. Well, like I would have. But again, I think it was important that there was a level of veracity that we were trying to achieve, and again, not in this kind of phony, baloney, bullshit Hollywood way. It's like, yes, we had to go out there and live the life. But what I was acutely aware of, and I think Liam will certainly echo this, is that it felt like we were on this adventure first and foremost, and then we happened to be making a film at the same time. And those two things rarely coincide, where you really feel like this is beyond us punching a clock or worrying about, we have to push our call because we were late. We were just in it in this way that was so wonderfully communal and bonding that I doubt I'll ever. The other night we had the premiere, and I stood, in the press line with this group of guys, and I had this moment where I thought, God, this is the last time I'm gonna stand with these guys, and it was really profound to me, I guess, because I felt like we'd really been through something, and like David said, I think it's reflected in the film. It's like you just can't fake an extremist like that dealing with what we dealt with. It's impossible, And like Liam said, you things start to short circuit and lines are getting dropped, and not even Liam. It's like, I remember telling Dermot Mulroney, I remember exploding on him because it's like, pal, you have 2 lines. But I realized he's standing out in this weather, and it's just, it's affecting them in ways that I wasn't aware of, And I think I wasn't necessarily so affected by the cold because I kept checking my watch, and I kept thinking, I'm not going to make my day. So there was this almost artificial heat being generated by that I was able to kind of push through it.
So your own kind of anxiety heater too.
Those are the best heaters.
But
anxiety.
But what about doing the work when you're standing out there freezing your butt off? How's that?
Well, there was no acting required, really, because, on your nice warm car going up to the mountain, to base camp, you're reading your lines thinking, I might do this when I say that line, or something. Suddenly you're out there, and we have 4 layers of clothing on, and thermal underwear and all that stuff. But I know, we're stressing it now. It was so cold that suddenly it was like, Jesus Christ, Okay, what do I say? What do I do?
Yeah, it wasn't acting so much as reacting.
Just reacting.
And that was for all of us, I think.
Okay, but what I'm thinking about is somehow, and I don't want to use the word courage, like I heard that at the Globes the other night, and I always sort of vomit a little in my mouth whenever I hear.
Was it Madonna talking about? Oh man!
When I hear actors at an awards dinner talking about courage, but still, tough job, right? And what I'm thinking is that scene you just described, where all you're trying to do is make the brain work, make the mouth work, get through the lines, and then and then it's cut, and then Joe says, and it's -40, that the frostbite is creeping up your. I love that. I love what you're doing with it. If we could just do it one more time.
No, he never said, I love that. He said, okay, let's do it again, And we had to move so fast because people were freezing, It wasn't a question of, it was just, okay, get back in the airplane, come back out, do it again. Come on, let's move now.
It was impossible, David, I guess, to carry the pretense of actor direct. What's interesting about the way the movie, like the veneer of whatever you bring to whatever these characters thought they were, from an ego stance or this veneer of tough guys and machismo. Nature has the quality of stripping all that shit away very, very, very quickly. And I think that's what happened to us. There was no more. I don't think I've ever been more direct as a director than I was on this show, because you simply couldn't mince words. I couldn't go into these elaborate rhetorical, nonsensical, in order to kind of to constantly knock the corners off what I was saying to protect the ego of the actor. It was I found myself being to the point of being belligerent, because I thought, we just don't have time to bullshit around. We're all grown men and women. We need to get on with it. And I found that to be very liberating in a lot of ways. That it allowed us to kind of carry on without without pretension, which I don't know when that happens in this business, because you're always worried about protecting someone's, this kind of fragile eggshell.
Ego.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't really cast that kind of actor, though.
No, we avoided the shirtless 17-year-old boy.
Right.
Everybody was very committed. Everybody, all the actors were incredibly committed.
When I watched it the first time, I just stayed within the four corners of the movie and watched it to see what would happen. But the second time through, I found myself thinking, how'd you get all this stuff out here? Where did this? Are you working with helicopters, snow tractors, snowmobiles? Where did the gear come from? I've been on a few sets, and I just thought, how did you light this? I'm interested in sort of, I know it's a little wonky and boring, but I'm interested, how'd you get all that crap out there?
Well, we had John Willett, who was our production designer. We went to this particular part of Smithers because he had shot a film there prior, so he knew he could drag this disassembled 737 up that mountain and basically build a set in this very remote part of the world. And it was, but then, it would require us, like as Liam mentioned, getting into a snowcat every morning and going an hour up this mountain to get to this set. And what was interesting about it is that when you leave and come back the next day, the evidence of nature and I guess the kind of the ferocity was they'd have to dig the wreckage out because that's how quickly we were being wiped off that mountain, But it was just a lot of physical labor. And then in terms of lighting, there was no lighting. There was Masa Takanyagi, who was this brilliant, understated Japanese DP. He was very old school.
Director
in
of
his approach.
photography.
And
Director of
operator.
photography. An operator. I was also as an A-camera operator, which I found to be really brilliant. But he would take a light reading, set his exposure, and shoot. And there's a great, and the photography in this film in particular is so strikingly great. And what he was able to do, and again, you've got a white landscape. It's not exactly the most forgiving
Gray.
visual. Yeah.
Landscape.
Yes. Sorry, Liam. We got to stick to the mission statement. I'm in a gray landscape. He was very, very astute and very clever in the way that he lensed this, and again did so in a way that was not overt and not. He never panicked. He never. He was just such a rock, and I don't know how we would have done it in the time we had, the time allotted, without that approach, without the very. Which is, again, how Vilmos shot Deliverance. There wasn't a lot of, it was very simple setups and very simple, this is what we're going to do. And in that approach, there was a direct quality that I quite liked.
Flashy lighting.
No, nothing flashy. No.
Liam, I'm interested in what it was about your experience of making the A-Team or in your relationship with Joe that you'd follow him into this endeavor, what it is about working with him.
Well, I reiterate what I said earlier. I've been asked over the years, is there a period in cinema that you particularly admire? And I said, as an actor, I would have loved to have been one of John Ford's stable of actors. Victor McLaglen, John Wayne, Ward Bond,
Right.
Liam Neeson. That's what
It rolls right off the tongue.
I love my director to be a leader.
Right.
And on the A-Team, which was a totally different animal, but Joe was a leader. And that doesn't mean he's not open to discussion about a scene and the interpretation and stuff, but he takes control and he's in charge. And in the gray and that particular, the environments we were in, you need a leader. There was no kind of, I wonder where I'll put the camera. It was just, right, here's what we're doing, boom, boom, boom. Get your shit together.
Yeah. No, wait a minute. I think we.
Yeah, but how tall are you?
6'4".
So he's only going to push back so much.
Plus, he's an amateur, former champion boxer.
Yeah, in Ireland, right? You
He's got giant hands. I'm not gonna lean into that right.
Yeah.
No.
No, I think what's brilliant about Liam and listen, and like he said, the A-Team was a completely, utterly different beast, but his willingness to kind of, because he and I developed a working relationship and then to a larger extent a friendship, that he trusted me that I wasn't going to drag him out the side of a mountain and make a fool of us. So I think that was its own coin, currency, but listen, that you don't get. I can say this, and I'd say with him here, it's like you don't get actors like that, for lack of a better analogy, cut the bullshit and get to it. You get a lot of ego, you get a lot of hubris, you get a lot of nonsense, and I just, as I get older, I'm less and less tolerant of that kind of behavior.
Yeah, me too.
And I just don't want to work with. It's about the quality of life, and I just don't want to work with people like that. That have this kind of ridiculous relationship with fame and with entitlement, and I find it hysterical and unnecessary, and I won't brook that kind of
Other than the 40-person entourage you showed up with.
Yeah, but beyond that, I mean, well, let's be honest. There was 38. Let's be, No, I think it is a lost art form. The absence of pretense, and I think Liam is a master of it. And listen, my wife says about Liam, she can not see him for a long period of time, and he'll sit down with her and he immediately asks her about her horses, and he remembers the horses' names, and it's crazy. I don't remember the goddamn horses' names. So it's like, so that quality I think is wonderful to have, because I think Liam is always more interested in you than you are in him, and that just doesn't happen that often.
I think that, we've talked over and over what it's like to, for you guys to be stuck out in this weather and stuff. We don't want to forget that you're getting chased around by animals whose territory you have apparently intruded upon.
Yes.
We're not really talking about a sequel to Dances with Wolves here.
Not dances with wolves.
Right.
Bar fights with wolves, perhaps.
I don't want to spoil the magic, but I do a little. How'd you guys do that?
It was
Animatronics.
Puppets.
I just listen. I didn't want Liam to.
You're being attacked by puppets.
I mean, you're talking about, yeah. I didn't want Liam to wrestle.
Didn't look like that.
To wrestle with a tennis ball and tell him 6 months later this is going to be a wolf.
Meaning shot against a green screen.
No,
Yeah, all
I
that
just
stuff.
It wouldn't have been. I don't think it would have had the. And what was amazing about those, even as they were puppeted animatronic wolves, the size of these things was such that the puppeteer would snap the jaws at you, and it had this effect of being
Oh,
like,
it was vicious.
Jesus, that's not right. I mean, there'd be this really, like, they did it to me, and they did it with the alpha, and the alpha's head was it looked like a bear's head. And
Plus you had like breath coming in and
Yeah.
out of them, and
Yeah.
then the pupils would do this weird thing. I mean, this is scary.
Yeah, but I thought again it was necessary, because I just think we've Liam's mentioned this on a number of occasions. This is a film that doesn't rely on computers and phones to kind of move the plot along. It's a very basic. I thought the elemental nature of this, the idea of not having something for them to work against, and something that is scary. I don't care if this thing's a puppeted. You've got a guy. My dear friend and stunt coordinator, who's actually in the film, Ben Bray, plays a guy that he gets it early on, and the wolf's head, because he's a stunt man and I could beat him up, it actually comes down on his face and locks on his face. Well, this was a real, those are whatever
Those guys-
polyurethane teeth, they hurt.
Yeah.
And he was completely bruised and battered in here where this thing had kept chomping on his head.
It's a buddy of yours you did this to.
He was one of my best men at my wedding, so I figured this is fair trade, pal. Yeah.
I'd stay married to who you are, because I don't think he'll line up again. Did any wolves chomp on your face, Liam?
No, just my
Your mug
legs.
is worth quite a bit of dough. I mean,
In fact, during one of the first rehearsals, I shouted, "Not my face, not my face!" I'm like,
I know you kind of broke with the with the rough and tumble spirit of the film and said, "No, not my face, not the moneymaker, my God."
Yeah, I don't think your agent would have signed you up. You said further. Yeah, let's see if we can alter Liam's face a little bit.
Phantom of the Opera.
You're not unfamiliar with the outdoors. You're a fly fisherman. When wow. Here we are in Midtown in the rare fly fisherman demo.
Yeah, exactly.
Get ready for that question about fly tying later on there. So you can get out to the woods and get back by yourself.
I can, yeah, but I mean, I don't trek for days and fish and then pitch a camp and trek back, you know.
The assistance of a couple of
Toyota
well-paid
Land
guides is
Cruiser.
always helpful.
You do.
Yeah.
And
But I'm comfortable out
Dave,
there.
he actually seems shocked by that. Like, you don't wander out there and fly fish on your own? Like, no. The creative artist agency would not like that.
In this film, there's many tears to your character. We learn that he's got a backstory, and we don't know if he's severed a relationship, screwed up a relationship, what happened to it. I'm not going to engage in any spoilers. So he's left something behind, right? And he's questioning, I think it's fair to say, because it happens early in the movie, whether he even belongs on this earth, right? Mm-hmm. But then when he is under attack and leading in an ad hoc way, nobody appoints him later, this band of men, he immediately locks into the idea of survival and making it out. So what is it in your character that created this, what was really a pretty gigantic pivot?
Well, you know the old expression, how do you make God laugh?
Right.
You tell him your plans.
There you go.
So I think this guy's totally surprised by the reaction he has after this malfunction on the air. And I guess you'll do anything to survive, you know? And he helps these other men to get out. And what that arc is, I honestly don't know, Dave.
I think the contradiction, I mean, listen, if I can jump in.
Please.
If you don't mind. No, I think that contradiction, the idea that, listen, there's moments when I think we all struggle with what the hell am I doing? And then there's days you think, I can't wait to get up and get at it and attack the day. I think that what I was, I guess, and again, I'm not giving anything away, guys. It's like, you know, this is a guy who at the beginning of the film doesn't have much use for life, and by the end of it is fighting violently and aggressively to protect and preserve it. And I quite like that as a
Yeah, but I'm still, why though?
Well, that's the
why
big
not?
question.
I guess
you know?
that's the
Why
question,
not?
Dave. Is why not? It's like because I guess something as tenuous as our time on this earth. It's like when it's threatened, or when you're really. And I also think that there's a very, without getting overly kind of metaphysical and existential about the whole thing, there's absolutely a karmic connection between in that moment where he's going to kill himself. I'm just going to say it. Oops, spoiler. It's okay. The director gave the spoiler.
It's early in the film.
It's early in the film that there is a call that stops him, that prevents him, and it's directly from the kind of the vagary, the nebulous. It's the gray. It's almost as if nature is telling him we have unfinished business, and therefore, you know, you would be inviolate if you did this thing, and it's therefore.
And he answers that call.
He answers that call, and I think that in the mystical sense of the way the movie kind of tracks. Again, guys, it's not meant to be a documentary. It's, you know, meant to invoke a lot of things. But I think that particular moment is important to note, that he's being tasked to enter into something and to meet them at some you know, a point is yet to be determined. You know, that happens again without getting too. I mean, that's as vague as I can get. My God.
Either that or you just took a big bong hit. When
I did. Well, I'm half of the bag on this Cabernet. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
In terms of the sort of nature aspect of it, this guy, okay, it's freighted with symbolism because why are all these roughnecks out there? They're extracting minerals from the earth. Man's heavy footprint to sort of power what's going back at headquarters where the rest of us live. And then they've got John Ottaway, this character, right, who's standing vigilant over them, and anytime a wolf quite naturally comes and says, hey, what are you guys doing here? They don't really say that, but they make it clear
They
they're
imply
unhappy.
that.
Yeah.
It's like a thought bubble. If you could
Yes.
see, right?
Yes, yeah. There's subtext of maybe your character does not belong there, or man in general. I mean, do you have strong feelings about that, Liam? About what we're doing to the rest of the world?
Very, very much so. Yeah, and we shot this. Remember, we flew up. We shot at this oil
Edmonton.
refinery, and it's
Yeah.
just. I mean, it's fascinating with the structures. It's like sculpture, these pipes and machines.
But it's interesting. It's the intrusion. It's the encroachment
Total
on the
intrusion.
natural world. I mean, it is, man. You look at it, however you cut it, it's like, you know. And I think I deliberately said it in the idea of these guys being oil workers, because it's, again, who gets the rap for raping the natural world more than the petroleum companies? I mean, you know, it's kind of they are the go-to, you know, what they're doing and what you mentioned, which is this idea of, you know, sucking the earth dry, and yet here are these people that are put directly into the most hostile environment you could be put into. And it's kind of, listen, again, it's like guilt by association in some ways. And again, without making it a big, certainly not an environmental, you know, like, but it was absolutely purposeful in setting this band of men working in that particular field. But again, I thought it was, again, just to keep them mysterious, because I think the tendency these days with CGI is to let's show everything. Like, let's do everything and show it. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think it robs you of the mystery and the ability to actually use this stuff creatively to conceal rather than reveal. And I think we did that throughout the film, and hopefully it holds up. I mean, it's so funny when people say, you know, when they talk about the wolves and how well the wolves work, I was like, God, if you only knew how much spit and baling wire was holding that little enterprise together. It's like, it's really pretty amazing, you know?
Yeah.
See, I love what your guys says is, and I think when we had our little gang wars when I was 8th grade, it's like, everybody be cool, man. Everybody be cool.
It's like the Jets and the Sharks.
But what you're talking about over and over in this film is, there's a lot about eye contact. There's a lot about standing erect. It's about who is the alpha, and you know what? It's not made up that they would stand just outside your circle of light and stare. I mean, I think the verisimilitude of this film is actually excellent, other than the fact that the wolves seem a little bit bigger.
Well, what's interesting is that I used photographic reference. There was of these wolves to kind of base it on the alpha, and there was these trapline wolves that were caught. These hunters caught them, and the way we heard one story up in BC, because we got the photographs, they said that these guys were, this brown bear was fleeing like, I don't know, it was a cattle rancher who was running away, and they were tracking this thing, and then suddenly the brown bear came running back the other direction, and this wolf was chasing the bear, and the wolf saw the men and proceeded to go for them and was shot. And I saw this thing, and it literally stood up on its haunches, was 6'6" and about 240 pounds. So I extrapolated this idea that if these wolves had never seen humans, and listen, I'm a big fan of adaptive radiation, the idea that if trees suddenly shot up and we became arboreal, that the generations removed would have longer extended, digits for climbing and so on. So I'm fascinated by it. And we see it recently. I don't know if you guys are familiar that these Sherpa children are being born with 25 additional genes that did not exist. And it's because they're born at elevation and their lungs need to function differently. I'm fascinated by that.
Evolution.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not a creationist, if you didn't pick that up. So the idea that these things would be larger just by virtue of being removed from humanity, civilization, that they'd have, and again, not necessarily adhere to, and I've heard all the theories that, again, animal behavioralists say, well, wolves would never do this, and I think that when I hear that stuff, and then I read about this in northern Siberia, there's a pack of 400 wolves, a super pack, that decimated 30 horses in 2 days. And animal behavioralists are scratching their head, and I think I don't know why you're scratching your head. It's nature, and it's unpredictable and wild, and I think anytime you have these empirical, immutable laws about animals, it's the same as applying it to human beings. I think it's equally absurd, in my mind. So that's what I use as the basis for these kind of, and again, like Liam had talked about, there still is a mystic quality to them that we didn't want lost, and there's a lore that we didn't want lost, and just, the reality of, well, wolves couldn't get that big.
Yeah, it's like Steven Spielberg's shark in Jaws. Is it a great white? Yes, it's a great white, but
it's a metaphor,
not.
right?
It's a metaphor. It's something
A
other.
pretty hungry one. I mean,
Very intelligent.
when you talk about, the wolves and the horses in Russia, they have another name for horses. It's food, right?
Right.
Food. In this instance, what they're after is not really food. They don't see food when they see your character and your.
That's what I think. Yeah,
They see a threat.
That's the guy that took down my cousins and brothers and sisters. That's what I played. My little subtext.
And in that context, if there can be such a thing, they kind of have the moral higher authority, right?
I guess.
You weren't supposed to be there.
No, I think so.
Oh.
I think so emphatically that they have the moral high ground. You don't belong there. And I think the movie actually, as it concludes, proves that out. I mean, it's kind of a, proof of concept. They didn't belong there, and where Liam's character, where Otway winds up at the end of that movie is, I think, proof of that, And again, without coloring it too much one way or the other, but I always looked at the wolves as, I looked at the wolves as, for those of you that will see the film, which I'm hoping is this entire auditorium, that they are a facet of, and they're by a force of nature. But if you see the film, there's this blizzard, there's a river, there's a cliffside. These are all component parts of the same thing, which is nature. And for all of its great beauty and splendor, it is equally hostile and merciless and unforgiving. And I think that's what we were going for.
There's the use of the sound of a wolf, which I have heard. I'm from Minnesota, and I've never seen a wolf in the wild, but I've heard them.
Yeah.
That's freaking scary.
It is scary. Well, I also used, listen, you live in LA, and if you live anywhere near a canyon or anything, have you ever heard coyotes, when they will call their brethren in when they've got something? It is the most chilling. Imagine it's like a child crying and screaming at the same time.
Either that or it's Lindsay Lohan not getting a call.
It could be, yes, exactly. Or looking for a dealer.
Yeah.
All right, come on.
Wow, that was
we're going to
mean.
work together, right? No, it's...
There goes
I
the
plan on getting a
untitled.
very angry call from Lindsay Lohan's reps tomorrow.
No, the untitled Lindsay Lohan project just scratched off one director. But this, did you have any, when you were making this, were there trained wolves there?
Yes, and they were very. That was almost a binary process with these wolves, because we couldn't even get them to howl. On command, they wouldn't. And maybe these wolves are just assholes. I don't know.
Just not.
Maybe they were divas. I'm not sure.
Maybe,
but
maybe they were under-directed.
yeah, maybe that's a distinct.
Think of that, Joe.
If you know anything about my career, you know that's a distinct possibility. No, it was. They were very. I found them to be very feral and very. And it was interesting. They had an alpha female, And I watched her when we first were kind of meeting the wolves. It's a very interesting process because you kind of edge closer, and of course they're all chained.